Good afternoon and welcome to Philanthropy Impacts Walk in My Shoes series, where today our panel of experts will be discussing how to support clients on their donor journey. As a not-for-profit membership organisation, it is our aim to increase and improve philanthropy and social investment and to also encourage impact investing. And we do this by supporting professional advisors to support their clients in this very way. So this is a great topic for us to be bringing to you today. We offer a range of educational events and training workshops to increase knowledge and understanding of philanthropy and social impact investing. So if you are inspired today and want to hear more about that, please do get in touch with me in the chat. I'll also share my email there. These Walk in My Shoes sessions are meant to be fast-paced, concise discussions around a pertinent topic in this space. As such, they are strictly 30 minutes. However, we do encourage audience interaction via the chat function. Please do introduce yourselves, give us your thoughts and pose questions to our panel that way. If you'd like to interact and for other people to see what you've written, please make sure to add panel and all attendees when you type and be respectful to all throughout. Your chair for today is our CEO, John Pepin, and he's joined by Russell Pryor, Head of Philanthropy at HSBC Private Bank, Nancy Bikson, who's the founder and managing director of Chapman York, and Marylou Gourlay, who's the head of Europe at the Philanthropy Workshop. Thank you all for your time to share with us today, and I will now hand over to John to make a start. Thanks, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Marylou, Russell, and Nancy for joining us. This topic is a really important topic because it can, working with professional advisors to support their clients through their donor journey can lead to a lot of change and a lot of growth. And if you think in terms of giving, where the median gift for high net worth, ultra high net worth is just over 4,000. There's a ways to go, but advisors are key to achieving that. Also, from an advisor's perspective, it's really important to look at doing this because clients are demanding it, women of wealth, millennials, and others. And if you look from a wealth advisory perspective, you can see that many more clients outside of those two groups are also demanding more discussion and fulfillment of their values and motivations. So, Marylou, I'd like to start with you. And my first question is, what does TPW do to support philanthropists on their donor journey? And what do you see are some of the key issues and challenges philanthropists are facing? And can advisors help with that as well?
Sure, that's a lot of questions, John. But firstly, thank you for inviting me to be on this panel here today for this vital discussion. So here at the Philanthropy Workshop, so we curate a global community of impact through sharing learning programs and peer connections to really help our members, so the wealth holders, to find new partners, to unlock their resources and ultimately accelerate impact in the communities where they're working. So our community is made up of high and ultra high net worth individuals who really share a deep connection to social change, particularly focused on approaches through trust-based strategic philanthropy and social investing more broadly. So I think within our community, we host both very early stage social investors who are seeking to accelerate their journey, often through, it might be exposure to expertise, connections, the latest thinking on innovation and impact, and others are joining us who might be more advanced on their journey, who are coming in as entrepreneurial leaders looking to partner or co-fund, share hard-won lessons, bring greater visibility to projects, or advocate for proven impact. So we started out 26 years ago now, which actually feels like a long time ago, and things have evolved significantly in that time. But we were originally set up specifically to meet the needs of philanthropists who wanted to learn how to give better and with greater impact. And actually, maybe that's an answer to one of your questions, which is one of the challenges is simply not knowing where to start. So what is the role of someone who wants to, embark on a philanthropic journey? How can you possibly make a difference? What's your role? Where are the leverage points? And I think one of the very initial starting blocks is, starting obstacles, I think, is a lack of confidence for many people, because I think the enormity of some of the challenges, the perceived difficulty of measuring outcomes and, even questioning the extent to which that's necessary can feel very, very challenging. I think isolation is also a big challenge for people, sort of not having or not knowing where to go to ask for advice, expertise. And that's obviously, in part linked to the culture of, wealth and wealth distribution being somewhat taboo. So I think, again, if you Google how to be a good philanthropist, nothing comes up. So I think, you know, in the last couple of years, TPW's made a shift also to say, you know, we want to be a community. It's vital that people come together and have this platform in this space where knowledge can be assembled and expertise can kind of come together, and where we can, you know, signal what's working, what's not working, you know, how do we learn more quickly from failures, but how do we be the best partners that we can be, and how do we be our sort of accountability partners and challenge one another sort of on that journey. Does that answer your question, John?
It's getting there. What about the role of professional advisors? I know you focus directly on philanthropists, but do you try to encourage their professional advisors, or to get them to encourage their advisors to provide support to their clients? Because I know that we have some millennials, very wealthy young women, who basically dump their advisors if they don't support them on their donor and social investment journeys.
So yes, I think that's a very crucial issue. It's not the one I'm specifically the most expert on, but as a community of philanthropists, we're often, you know, working with people who have started working with advisors who've sort of said, you know, here are some of the things you might need to think about. And there's such a broad range. And I think, you know, where the advisors can come in, it's also building on that trust and that deep knowledge of what someone's working on, and where they want to take that. And I think, you know, it is a lot about a journey. We often talk to people about, you know, it's not only about deploying your treasure, but what's your philanthropic identity within this? And we talk about the 5 T's: your time, your talent, your treasure, your ties, and your tent. Tent sort of refers to convening power. But I think it's the ability to have a very open kind of conversation with your strategic advisor, the vulnerability to sort of say, you know, I don't also know what I don't know, the humility to kind of, you know, look in and realize it's a continual learning journey and you need to partner with many different people within this. And I think the strategic advisor often plays a really pivotal role at the very, you know, at the beginning of a journey, but then being with someone throughout and watching that evolution.
Great, thank you. Russell, over to you as a professional philanthropy advisor. What is your role at the bank, and how unique is it in terms of the cross-section of professional advisory firms, not just banks, but lawyers, tax, etc.? And then secondly, how important is it for professional advisors, whether they're philanthropy advisors like you, or the actual people who are helping manage wealth, discuss with them their values, their motivations, their ambitions, etc.?
Hi, John. Good to be with you on the panel today. So at HSBC Private Banking, my role as a philanthropy advisor is to pretty much work with our clients on any questions they have about philanthropy or charitable giving, or to help them wherever they are on their journey. So a bit like Marylou, we have some people who are right at the beginning of their journey, but we also have some people who are further along. We also have clients who might have set up or are running their own family foundation for a number of years, and they're looking to refresh what it is they're doing with their philanthropy. So we see people right across the spectrum of philanthropy, and going on from philanthropy into impact investing. We also see a number of our clients interested in social business and things like that. So I think a spectrum these days that incorporates much more than just philanthropy. So I think one of the fun parts of the role is we get all sorts of questions, literally every question you can possibly imagine. And so part of it is to answer the second of your questions, part of it is to then think about how can we bring some sense to the dialogue that's happening around philanthropy with our clients. And I think the point you make about values and motivations is a big starting point for this. Because a lot of the questions we get asked are the sort of, how do I do it type of questions. Whereas actually where we really want to start the conversation with them is, why are you doing it? What are the values and what are the motivations? Because it's quite easy to sort of start doing something. And as the old adage goes, you know, giving away money really is quite hard. So it's kind of hard to do it well. And that's why we go right back to this issue of motivations. Why are you doing this? If you can create that sound platform about the motivations and the values, then I think by the time we come on to what and the how, then it's rooted in something much clearer. So I think when we're talking about it, and when I'm talking to my colleagues about it and other advisors, I think there's kind of three critical things that I try to get across. One is knowledge. The second one is experience. And then the third one is confidence. So what we're talking about is, if you're going to raise the topic of philanthropy or impact investing with your clients, clearly you need to have a bit of knowledge about what's going on. You need to be well informed. You need to know where to go for help, because there's a limit as a frontline advisor to what you can do. And certainly in HSBC Private Banking, where they want more specialist input, they come to someone like me. I think one of the other big things I've learned over the years I've been involved in the world of philanthropy is it's great to have some personal experience. It's really difficult to just talk about this when you don't actually know what's going on yourself. So really keen, and we do with our advisors, work hard with them about that experiential thing. What does it actually feel like to be doing something in the sector? And then finally, have the confidence to raise the topic. I think this is a topic that some advisors can be a little fearful of raising. Might be because of their lack of knowledge, might be the lack of experience. It might just be because they don't know what their clients are going to say and they don't know how to react to that conversation. But have the confidence to raise it. And I think if you raise it in a well-structured way, rooted in things like values, motivations, wealth goals, wealth objectives, your life journey, your legacy, things like that, then actually it becomes a really interesting and easy conversation to have, and one that I think it's tremendous to have those conversations with clients who want to do something good for society.
It's interesting, Russell, because we provide a lot of training to professional advisors about how to support their clients on their donor journey. And we've identified 23 distinct services that are needed on that journey. And of course, no professional advisor, no firm is going to be able to provide all of those. They have to start to build networks. But your model is quite unique because there's only a few organizations in this country that actually have people like you. And the vast majority of wealth advisory organizations or professional advisors don't have that kind of thing. Yet clients are expecting some support. How do you see them doing that? Do you encourage them to do it, but then to use other services to provide some of the expertise?
Absolutely. There's many ways you can do this, and clearly I would say this, wouldn't I? It's great for an organization to have someone like me doing this, but that's not strictly necessary. There are many other good organizations out there who can help, and I think it is about, and I know this from my work at the London Community Foundation, there are other organizations out there that can really help advisors and firms to bring good solutions to their clients. I think it's about those firms having the interest in the totality of their clients' wealth, and philanthropy, I think, is a part of, if you like, the way in which people are looking to manage their wealth. And I mean, I use the phrase financial wealth and non-financial wealth, and I think philanthropy sits across both of those. It's a very powerful part of how people go on that sort of non-financial wealth journey.
Thank you. Nancy, over to you. I know you were kidding at the beginning before we came on that no matter what question I would ask, you would ask your own question. So let's start off. What question would you ask in light of all this? Sound?
Thank you very much for inviting me to come, and sorry to have put myself in this position of not having a good question to answer.
You can ask a question.
I think that the questions that you've been asking are obviously the right ones. How do we best look after our clients? And interestingly, I started out as a private client lawyer, and particularly working in the areas of estates and trusts. So in fact, the kind of client relationship, and that's what this is a lot about, is very similar. It's about understanding the person that you're talking to, the person that's sitting on the other side of your desk, what their goals are, why because this is about giving money away. It's not about raising money. It's not about increasing money. It's about literally giving it away. And I do actually take exception with the idea that it's difficult to give it away well, because I think it shifts. We have, to some extent as advisors, shifted to the fact that it's going to be a professional way that you've got to give money away. And we sometimes lose the fact that we need to actually celebrate the fact that people are willing to give money away and that want to do good with what they have. So I keep bringing that up every single time. But it really is about caring about what the person's doing, about looking at and ensuring that they are working, that you're not just looking at them unless they want you to. You may be looking at a couple, you may be looking at a family, you may be looking at people who want to give, to do something now, whether as opposed to people who want to do something on a long-term thing, whether it's something which is they want to get generations involved in. So, you know, that's been true no matter what kind of thing you're talking about. As I say, I started out looking at it, you know, giving it away at death. Now we're looking at giving it at the philanthropy whilst people are alive. Chapel New York, we are more the how, so that we have a range of giving vehicles through which people can give around the world. And so we often get people who have had some really good advice and are looking to use our foundations to make grants around the thing. And we also have people who just come to us because they want to make a one-off donation. But in terms of looking at all the various people and their advisors here, there's a lot to be said for just caring about and listening. I think listening is so important in this, because that's the starting point of all of this, this whole conversation. So I'm not sure if that's a good question or a good answer, or neither, maybe.
I thought it was a great answer, and it actually answered my question. So that was terrific. Thank you, Nancy. But I wanted to follow up because we have found that the role of professional advisors, whether they're lawyers, tax wealth advisors, private banks, or whatever, is really important in this whole process. Do you see it that way? And are you supporting or working with these people, or are you supporting your clients through that process?
So I don't think anyone would disagree with the idea that we all have to work together to provide the best answer to our clients. That's absolutely got to be crucial. As I say, we do work with a lot of advisors because ultimately we can offer them and their clients the how and the methods of, particularly on the international area, which is where we deal with. And sometimes, for example, we might have a client who's got a trust set up in one country, but they've got a child living in another country that wants to get money to that trust, etc. So I think it's absolutely crucial, obviously, that we all bring to this party the best practice that we have and what our firms and what our work is that's efficient, so that we do the best for our client. I mean, that's always got to be the end result.
Okay, thank you. There is a question in the Q&A. How do incumbent generations react to the increasing interest and shift of new generations towards impact investing as an alternative to traditional philanthropy? Who would like to answer that? Marylou, are you picking up anything on that?
Yes, we are. I think we're picking up on a number of things, and I think sometimes we're looking, well, increasingly we're also being asked to focus more on this idea of sort of coherent capital, and are there potentially some investments that need to be divested from in order to have that mission aligned investment. I think there's a whole piece around the family dynamics that needs to be addressed in order to kind of push some of this forward, and we are definitely sort of thinking broadly across our community. We are hearing, I mean, honestly, almost on a daily basis, that people are saying, okay, I've started my impact investing journey. Some people see it almost as, literally the whole spectrum from traditional grant making, writing a check, all the way up to the impact investing side. I think the younger generations are pushing for that. I think they're also pushing for, greater discussion around what are the systems that have enabled the wealth creation in the first place. And sometimes they're starting then by looking at the impact investing first, and then almost moving to the more traditional kind of side of things. So yeah, that's our experiences right now. Okay,
Russell, have you got any response to this? Are you seeing this?
Yeah, no, it's pretty similar to Marylou, actually. We're seeing that, and I guess part of it is about going back to kind of goals and objectives. What are you trying to achieve? And how are you going about it? And I think that's where we try to strip it back to first principles. and actually, again, to the point of the question, I think about the differences between the generations. I think, often when you strip it back to first principles, there's less difference about, if you like, what they're trying to achieve. Often it's perceptions about the ways to go about it that can be the difference. Not in all cases. There are some cases where these different modes are seen, for the particular characteristics they have, which is absolutely fine. But I think we always try to take it back to first principles and see what it is people actually mean by a lot of this stuff.
Nancy, it's interesting the use of language, because there seems to be a language all over the place. So Marylou was talking about social investors, Russell's talking about philanthropy, you're talking about philanthropy. Is there a difference in terms of the use of that language?
I think probably not. I think it's, social impact and social investment has gone through a series of language. We used to talk to years ago, we talked about microeconomics and things. So I think that it's all similar looking, but trying to get to the same result, which is effective giving away funds for or investing funds for the good of the world.
Okay. Russell, there's a whole shift taking place around suitability, and wealth advisors having the initial discussion with wealth advisors before they invest. You have the current FCA approved suitability, which is around risk profile, etc. But there's also the issue of suitability in terms of some of the things we're talking about, which is impact investing and people wanting to do good with their investments, not just their philanthropy. Are you finding within your experience that there's a pickup on the whole issue of suitability, which means in effect talking to people before their investment about their values, about their motivations, and also tying that into the kinds of impact investing they might do?
Look, it's a complex area, John. Clearly, I think it's just about understanding the different roles that there are to play. So, and across within the bank, we have different members of our teams that do different parts of this. So one has to be very clear about the role of regulation and suitability and so on and so forth, but also be clear about where there are opportunities for people to do things like philanthropy, impact investing, etc. I think what we have in common is that so much of this is rooted in ultimately what are the goals and objectives of the client and a sound understanding of what it is they want to do and what they're trying to achieve and why. And I think then after that, the different roles and the different roles of regulation take care of much of the difference. But I think for us, it's about having those sound first principles.
Okay, no, thank you. There's another question in the Q&A. What is the appetite among your clients for newer grant-making modalities, such as multi-year and unrestricted funding? Anyone like to address that?
Well, I think again, it goes back to a little bit about what Russell's saying, which is if it fits in with what a client wants to do, there's always interest. Unrestricted funding has always been the hardest thing for fundraisers to raise, as long as I've been doing this, but it's very much how it works within what they want and should be part of a whole program of what you're delivering to achieve what their desires are.
Anyone else want to address?
I can add to that, John, if that's useful.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think something that we've also, excuse me, reflecting on a year of COVID and seeing some behaviours that came in out of necessity that we're hoping will become permanent behaviour changes. But we've also seen, because we work sort of across the globe and we have, a big presence in the US as well, this idea of the trust-based philanthropy movement that's kind of coming to the fore. excuse me. And a lot of that is very much focused on, how does the donor almost take on some of the burden of the granting organization? So this idea of, can we always move to a point of giving multi-year unrestricted funding? Should we be doing that? Yes, we should. How do we almost look at the sort of the due diligencing side of things as a process that we go through with the potential, grantee, rather than a process that's done to them? And this came out of the Whitman Institute in the US, and it's increasingly, well, slowly, but increasingly being sort of taken up here, and us sort of saying, we had to respond very, very quickly. And, some people were quick to sort of say over the last 12 months, was it, was a more humanitarian response almost required? And what did that mean? How did we give up some strategic giving in order to be very, very reactive to what was, required in the moment? We also saw that reflected in the way people often moved away from international giving and to giving a lot more to their local communities. But I think people are getting a sense of, how do we give over some of this power to those who are closest to the problems, those who know, where the solutions lie? And I think that's been accelerated and means that people have sort of cracked open this idea of, okay, how do I need to do things differently? And that's been a big shift that certainly within our community, there's a lot of discussion around. So the more sort of trust-based approach, devolving power, and now looking towards resilience and seeing what some of the permanent behavior change might be.
Great. Thank you. We only have 4 minutes left. So Russell, for the professional advisors in the audience, what are the benefits to advisors supporting their clients on their donor journey, the benefits to the firm, to the individual advisors?
So from my perspective, I think increasingly philanthropy, giving, wanting to sort of support communities, however you want to phrase it, is an increasingly important part of the way people think about their lives and about their legacy, about their wealth. And so for me, it's as simple as getting really close to those individuals, building a strong relationship with them, and helping them to achieve their goals. And I think, at the heart of the private client industry is building, long-term, deep relationships with your clients. So, I think that the conversation around philanthropy in that sense is non-optional. And I think then the benefit to the organization flows from that. So I think it's, I don't see any real separation between the two. I just think it's an important part of building relationships with this community.
Okay, terrific. We've only got 2 minutes left, so I thought I'd ask each one of you to give some final words of wisdom to encourage more advisors to do this kind of stuff and for more and better giving. So who would like to start off 30 seconds or so of final words of wisdom? This time has gone so quickly, and there's so much we hardly even scratched the surface. Not scratching. That it would be great to come back in the autumn with a more in-depth discussion, but who would like to start off with final words of wisdom?
John, I'll say something very quickly. I think at the end of it all, John, if it's something you haven't been involved in very heavily hitherto, then you've got to have curiosity. Curiosity to start to get to know what's going on, to get involved personally.
Thank you, Russell. That was really terrific. Who would like to go next?
I guess I would say there's sort of no wrong answers. So it's worth at least having the discussion.
Great, thank you. Marylou.
Sure, I think it's about having the confidence to step into the space and also identifying your critical friends within the process to really help you drive you forward. I think we have to recognize that the culture that we live in often means that conversations are stifled. And sometimes it's about, getting the ball rolling. Otherwise, we're all adding to the opacity. And then finally, I think it's also saying, like, there is no stupid question. We want people to be able to lean in, to be vulnerable, to lead with humility, and recognize that, even if you're at the start of your learning journey, it's also a continual one. So even people who are more advanced on their journeys are still learning, because if we stop learning, we stop innovating, and then we become redundant. So there's a place for everyone. And yeah, there's no stupid question to get going on your journey.
Great, thank you. I think it's really important that any professional advisor talking to a client is in effect establishing a relationship. It's only one little step forward from that to talk to them about their values and their motivations and where to take them. So Nancy, Marylou, Russell, thank you very much for this. It was really neat. That's Canadian for you're okay.
Thanks
Sophia.
for having us.
You're welcome. Sophia.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was great. It's one of my, when I was an advisor, was always to allow people to understand that it's okay to fail in these moments with philanthropy, especially in your first step. But it's about understanding why and talking to the charity that you're working with as to what happened, why that grant didn't particularly work out and the expectations that they had. And I always found that was something really important to do with your clients. So I've just really loved this. Thank you very much, guys. Next week, we are back with Walking My Shoes, where it's a slightly different take. John, you might know, it says interview with impact assets. Is that the donor, that brilliant donor advice fund from America? What's impact assets?
Yes. Yeah, it's a donor advice fund that's different in the sense that all their investing is impact investing. And so it's just really focuses in on that.
Yes, that would be a good one to join us. So thank you all for your time, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.